Greetings and welcome to PowerShell Wednesday. Every single Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, we are here with PowerShell presentations. It's a stream. We're learning PowerShell together, kind of on the 101 vibe lately. So if you're a beginner to PowerShell, now's a great time to tune in. Check out the recordings. Last week, I talked about managing files, and today I'm going to be shedding some light on select object. But it's not just me. My dear friend, Fred, PowerShell writer extraordinaire, will be following after me to show you how to use select PSF object, which is a way to take things even further. So select object, it's one of those critical commands that you have to know as you learn PowerShell. And it's going to be helpful very early on in the journey and then very late. Pretty much everyone that I know uses select object.
It's a constant thing. It's just like one of those core fundamentals. You need it early, it's low complexity, and it never stops giving you gifts.
Yep. And when you can combine it with things like maybe what I'll show next week, where object, then you can do anything. Then you have a ton of power at your hands. But before you get into that select object and where object, you're kind of at the mercy of the individual command that you're dealing with, which is not the worst thing in the world. Those commands can still be helpful, but it's not very flexible. You can't do kind of custom use cases, things like that.
You can't transform the data into what you need.
That's
right. Andrew, don't forget the third one. It's so underestimated, but group object, after you've got select and where object, group to object is, in my opinion, the most underestimated king.
Ooh, so underutilized. That might be a follow-up. A lot of what I'm trying to do here is I know people are copy and pasting code from AI. So let's give them all the tools so they can understand as much of whatever command they get that maybe they can actually tweak it and understand what's going to be running. Yeah, it's been surprising to me how many people are just rocking with AI for all their code, but apparently it's working. All right. So yeah, select object. It's a command. Get help select object if you want to learn more and see other use cases outside of this. Get help for any command is probably the go-to. Reading help cannot be as much fun as hanging out with us. So if this is the way you want to learn it, boom. But if you ever have any questions as you're actually running code, check out Get Help, read the docs. They're quite helpful. All right. Misused. It is. Oh, wait, I updated this. Hold on. I'm going to click this, click the save button, and then click the preview again. Boom. All right, back to this. All right, so select object star. That's a huge part early on. You'll notice, and I'm going to try and emphasize this, but PowerShell deals with objects. And these objects can have a ton of properties, right? Imagine an object has 50 properties. Well, whenever you run the command to return that object, it's not going to display everything inside that command. It's going to make some choices as to what it actually displays to you. But behind the scenes, all that stuff still exists. I know I had some challenges with this when dealing with like exchange stuff because the results would be so big. Yeah. And like, you have to know how to access the properties. And select object is a simple starter way of, selecting and expanding properties. Just realized I didn't show expand property in this. But yeah, it's also beginner friendly. There's some things you can do with select object that are readable that you could also do with kind of fancier characters and defining an array and things like that that you can avoid. And if you want to make legible code, select object is going to be with you forever. Core concept. We're talking about filtering things to a certain extent. And it is incredibly important. Same thing with that object thing. We want to filter to the farthest left, and then we want to format to the farthest right that we can get away with. Because if we format too early, we're not dealing with the same object. We're dealing with like a format object, which is totally different. Just format to the far right.
Yeah,
absolutely. We're going to get in some code that kind of shows you that it won't even work. If you run like a select object after a format table, well, I guess we can try it.
Yeah.
Look at that. It's a table. Let's
Yay!
See. There's also list. It's a list. Oh my gosh. It's a big list. See, it's kind of hard to read. So by default, it doesn't show all that because you imagine you get 6 of those, your whole screen terminal history is cooked. But now let's say, okay, so we formatted it. It's showing me too much stuff. I'm going to select object, and then I'm going to name the property. So let's just do name. I'm sure that's a property.
Probably, yeah. But
there's no property on format list.
That is evil. So we can get to get member. But what's that? Andrew, this does not look like a file to me. I mean, the naming is kind of suspicious, and there might be even more if you scroll up, I've heard. yeah.
I feel sick to my stomach right now, Fred. We don't want
this. This is unfortunately the death of data. Format list or format table. They convert useful information into painting instructions. It's basically these format start data, format group start data, whatever. That's only just something that is supposed to tell the console how we want it displayed, which is very much not data that we can select.
Yep. And I find people early in their PowerShell journey, they haven't really wrapped their head fully around that text versus object thing. So they'll oftentimes write tools that just display text on the screen for them, which using write host. It's just a tendency. It makes sense, right? If you want to input something, read host, kind of back and forth. But you'll find that approach really doesn't scale very well. I can't hate on it. If your code works and you're going through a project and you're kind of doing things in that manner, it's great to have a project like that under your belt. You'll run into some challenges where you'll need to take a slightly different approach. And so I don't honestly use format commands too much. I just use select star. Like Judd says in the chat, get child item. And most people, if you're actually typing, you're just going to use select instead of select object. It's pretty legible and it makes sense, right? And then the star will give you everything.
Like the SQL statement. I'm going to select everything.
Exactly.
Only we don't need to select from something because that's the input PowerShell pipeline.
See, I knew select was like a database thing before I even knew how to say SQL. I was SQL in it till the cows come home. We learn,
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Let's see, objects everywhere. Yeah, it kind of what we're just discussing. PowerShell is not outputting text. It looks like text because that's what's being displayed to you, but you gotta play with these commands a little bit so you can see that there's more to it. Like, do this real quick, everybody. Files equals get child item. You can do any kind of object. We're just trying to get comfortable. So we type the variable name, we run it. All right, it gives us some stuff. That format, I don't know what all the properties are. So we can do select star. Now you can scroll through this and see if there's something valid. And this is a really great tip because a lot of times property names may not immediately jump out to you. Like you're not going to know all the properties or something. There could be really helpful information that's hidden because it's not part of the core information that needs to be returned. And oftentimes that's what you'll need for these things you're trying to solve at work.
But it's Andrew, this is absolutely true, but this is still a lot of rows for me to search through. Can we make this up? Like, can we look for something here in this, forest of information?
What do you think we should look for?
How about anything with name? There might be different ones.
I'm the type where anytime I'm trying to asterisk search anything wildcard, I'm hitting it at the front and the behind usually. I should phrase that differently. I'm putting one at the start and the end whenever I'm using asterisks. But look at this. Yes, you can find every single property that has name inside of it, which in PowerShell, there tend to be a few. As you can see here, there's a base name, a PS child name, a full name. Very helpful stuff. What if we wanted to do multiple?
I'm pretty sure it can handle that.
Boom. Yes, parent path. We got names. We got paths. All of it. Super flexible. You're going to have to get comfortable with this command, or else these objects with all these properties, there's no other way to interact with them. You have to get hands-on. You have to. All right. Yep. And if you know what properties you're looking for, you might as well filter. If you only need a few properties, you may not want to return all of them. And there's some times when it matters more than others, but something to be aware of. Filter left, right? When possible, filtering is great. Some simple examples here, right? Select a few objects. I think I've shown this a few times. The cool one, and this is where I think it gets into that point I made earlier, where it's very beginner friendly to start doing some of this stuff. So yeah, we'll do get child item again, and then we'll do select. I'll do select object this time. And then you can select like the first couple, because say you're testing something and you want to just test the first item. You don't need to look at all these items, or you're doing a for each loop and you want to just test like what it would look like if you only had one item. Well, you can select the first one. You can select whatever you want. And then we could do something like that.
And there we go. I think name was a bit more readable, Phil.
Yes. Yeah.
By the way, Andrew, are you prepared for a quick hack here? A
What's
little
the hack?
command line trick.
Okay.
And this is not something you should be doing in script code, but when you're on the command line, you're being comfortable, you're just doing select, not select object. But for parameter names, you don't need to spell them out. You only have to type them until there's only one possible match. And guess this, select object has only a single parameter that starts with F. So you can do select minus F1, and you still get the same result.
Look at that. The PowerShell hack right there for you. But that only applies. So if there was another one called foil, I don't know why I said the word foil, but you would have to,
type the second character at least.
Yep.
It's of course not something you want in your script code, where at some point you need to remember what that parameter is supposed to mean as you read your code. So write it out properly in your script code. But in the command line, where everything will be forgotten the next day anyway.
Yep. There's also skip you can use. Same kind of thing, right? You can just skip a couple of the results and select whatever you need. There's first, there's also last, right? You only want to get the last one, see if it's recent or whatever's going on. Just, all right. Thank you, Jake. All right, we're ready to dive into this because Morten brings up a great point, and I might cover it really quick here. I don't quite yet, but I'm going to bring it on screen anyways because I think it's really true. Personally, I never use -force or -skip first or -skip. I usually pack it in. I think it's called squeezing whenever you put it around the parentheses things, and then he does an array or something like that. And that's what I do too, because I'm familiar with those concepts and they're, once you understand, it's kind of comfortable, but that is an additional thing that someone newer would have to learn. And that's I'm trying to highlight that if you're a beginner and that code is still confusing, to see all the different characters, to get an array and stuff like that, that's all good. You can do that later, but you can also just kind of use select object forever and it's super readable. If you're trying to teach someone else PowerShell and they don't know all the stuff yet, they're going to be able to pick it up. But maybe if you work at a team where the expectation is a little higher, maybe you would go the approach that Morten brought up there. I do cover that a little bit in the future here because those are good things to know. Calculated properties, we've talked about it a lot lately.
Gotta love them.
You gotta love them.
And you gotta hate them.
You gotta hate them a little bit because sometimes if you're writing a script, should you really be doing some crazy select object expanded property, or just maybe generate the object yourself?
Or maybe you select PSF object. Spoiler alert, there's something coming up.
Okay. But it's basically a way. So PowerShell is an extendable type system. So you can do stuff with the objects. And one thing you can do within select object is add a new property. Add a brand new property that doesn't exist. So Microsoft, they created get process. They didn't think about this one extra property that you need. Well, you're able to, in the pipeline, add this right here. Instead of saying like we were doing star name star earlier or star path star, instead of that, you get to use this magic, this code right here. All right. You give it a name. All right. We're going to name this whatever property name you'd like. And then you give it an expression. All right. When you get to this little curly thing right here, you're writing it's straight PowerShell. You can refer to variables that are already there. You can run new code and get new things. Pretty helpful stuff.
What's this $_ that I'm seeing down below in the second example? That looks weird.
$_ That is a really great question. Sometimes people know it as $PS item is another way of referring to it. But let's get some code ready. Okay, so we get. I'm going to pipe this to select object. I'm just going to do the first one. I don't want to show everybody what I have on my machine. Let's just see what we got. It has no process name.
Maybe skip to another one.
First one, we'll skip 3. All right. Probably some built-in service. All right. So we have a process object right here. Can we verify that? Let's check out with get member. Got to scroll a little bit. All right, the top thing, type name is system.diagnostics.process. Usually I kind of don't read these first two and I just skip to the last one. Does it look like a process object? Is it the same name? Love it.
Well, that works well until you get a selected dot at the beginning.
That's right. I saw Lucas Allman in the chat. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I don't often see semicolons in PowerShell. Why is there a semicolon in the middle of the named expression? Oh, good question. Yeah, it's because you want to. I mean, honestly, I only know it because you have to, because that's the way I read it initially. But otherwise, you need to kind of denote when things end, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It's literally that. It's a line break in the script line without us forcing to have a line break in the file. It's like separate PowerShell statements within the same line. And in a hash table notation, well, when's the first entry end and the next one start? In a new line, usually.
Yeah, just like this. So you can run two commands. Sometimes I'll do that if I'm doing something more personal related, like, okay, I'm downloading this video using YTDLP. I'm going to up arrow. I'm going to have a start sleep colon, and then the command, just so I can just run whatever command, and up arrow key, enter. So it's in my history as one save, I guess is a different way to say it. Or I think with modules a lot of the time, I'll like import the module or update the module and force it. And yeah, so there's some good use cases for the semicolon. Look at that. You're learning all kinds of things just by learning about select object, which highlights the importance of knowing a lot of stuff in PowerShell, because it really does inform each other if you're trying to do things. Oh, James Griffith, you're a hero. Thank you, sir. Yeah, so sorry. Get process, get child item. Just like that, it would work. So cool stuff there. So this dollar underscore, though, let's circle back to this. So we have an object, all right? It's a simple object. Now we're going to do this thing, select the name. Okay, there's just that. But now we're going to do our little fancy calculated properties. Name equals memory and megabytes. See the capital B, byte. We're going to end that because we need to start the expression part. So then we're doing expression, which is a magical word PowerShell knows about, I guess. Dollar under. Dollar underscore refers to the item in the pipeline right now. So if you pipe something together, the way you're going to refer to whatever you're piping is $underscore. So it would apply for every single process thing that we piped to it. Say I got a ton of processes. For every single one, every single item, it will refer to the .ws, which let's see what that is. Oh, yeah. Okay. Basically, it's like the working set, aka the working memory. Some of this stuff, it's not that intuitive as you look at these objects, because we're kind of borrowing objects from other places that weren't necessarily thinking about this context. So you will learn as you go about learning PowerShell. But yeah, so we got that. So there's that WS property. So we're going to refer to that. We're going to divide it by 1 megabyte. MB is a little helpful thing you can do in PowerShell. And then we're going to just cast it as an integer. I'm just going to copy paste this. There's no way I'm typing that again. I'm just going to Control Shift V. Control Shift or Command Shift V. Closed it. Glorious. I'm just going to paste it. See what happens. All right. A lot of stuff here.
Yeah.
Let's go back
to work.
Indeed. That's first one. Bada boom. Well, 0 memories. That's not very much. I think that was the reason we skipped it, right?
I think it was the name, but the memory is a good argument either.
There you go. A couple of megabytes being used. This applies to a whole bunch of stuff. A lot of times when you're going to want to use calculated properties, you're going to have some other variable that you're going to refer to maybe and get some information and just make it so it outputs as one. Helpful if you're kind of doing things interactively, but if you're trying to make a lasting solution, I would probably not take that approach. I would probably just create the object, then refer to whatever variables you need, because it's very clean to read it that way. All right. Yeah, here's an example. We talked about this a little bit earlier. This is bad. You can't format to the left and do this to the right. No, no, no. This is good. We're filtering early, filtering, then we're formatting. Yes, Mike. Mike has got it figured out. I use select star all the time when I want to see all the things. Exactly. And you're going to be able to feel a lot more confident in PowerShell if your brain knows select object star. Like if I'm not seeing what I'm seeing, let's just hit that up, see if I'm dealing with the right things. I know that personally, I got really confused by that one time, and I asked somebody in the community, and they're like, "Yeah, you just need access to property, like select star," and I just didn't read all the results proper enough. I should have done star asterisk star for what I was looking for. Yeah, emphasizing earlier, text, like formatting stuff for straight up objects. Fred, is it fair to say the more you use PowerShell and write things with it, the less you're going to be using formatting?
I can neither confirm nor deny because the answer is both. Specifically, one thing I completely removed from my coding is putting format commands inside of my script code. But inside of the console, when it's just for displaying things to me at the end of a pipeline, I'm more open to that. Still using that actually for that. But inside of a script code, it's banned. There's no way I'm going to put this into any script. As a matter of fact, I've got this module template and this test for forbidden commands. I do not test for the format commands because it is so self-evident that I would not be using it. I just right now realized that I didn't have it in the tests.
Fred, I'm glad I could teach you something, Fred. Every time, I'm trying to help you along your PowerShell journey too, man. So that's funny that you discovered that. But yeah, I mean, there's a place for them, but it shouldn't be your go-to. Like your brain doesn't need to always think about hitting up format tables. Select object can get you somewhere, and it makes things easier. Okay, so these, well, I kind of slightly messed it up, but this code right here will do the exact same thing as this, right? One is a little bit easier to read, in my opinion. If you're on that more beginner side of things, cool. It's logical. The first two, you don't need to think about arrays and the fact that arrays start at 0, right? That might be a new concept for some. I think people maybe heard the meme, counting starts at 0. Something's wrong with this person. They started counting at 1. But this is a cool technique, right? You run a command, you wrap it in these, because then you can do stuff to it. I could type, let's try this, get child item. You do this thing, and then I can access a property by pressing dot.
Yeah.
I need to know the name.
But then it works.
It works.
I kind of like explaining this parenthesis thing. It's like in mathematics. Do what's inside first, and then whatever comes afterwards.
Yep. And this is an array. So we want a list of things. You know what? We'll just show array real quick. We don't even need that. All right. We want an array of things. Array is like a list, a bunch of them. 0. We're going to start at 0. And we're going to go to 10. Okay.
Yeah, you might not want the brackets there. If you just want to throw, we don't have anything to index.
Oh, yes. You just do it. Yep. I think I actually did something with this. Yeah. It's a good way. Like, say I just wanted to create 10 dummy files. I actually did this last week. I think you want 10 dummy files. You just give it 0.10. And then I did a for each object, created a new item, and I named it referring to it $_. So it's going to refer to 0 and then 1 and then 2 and then 3 .txt. Okay, so just created a bunch of files. But anyways, that's how you do an array. Gosh, okay, so if we wanted to apply that to this get child item thing, let's try that, shall we? And then we have to do the brackets here. Don't exactly know why. Keep it contained, I guess. But yeah, we're going to grab the first. Well, I don't have that many files here. So this will grab 2, right? The 0th position, the 1 position. That is 2 files. You'll get used to counting like that.
Yeah.
And the result is the exact same as this. So choose your favorite. Honestly, the reason I showed this though is I'm hoping people remember what this is a little bit and start to use it. But if that is confusing, just use this. Like you seriously don't need to know too much fancy stuff. That's kind of like all I had. Fred, can you take this to the next level?
Oh, I absolutely will.
And they know this.
I absolutely am happy to, and you gave me the perfect handing over point, which is totally going to change the way things I was also planning to, demonstrate, but that's it, the way it is.
Oh, I stepped on your toes a little bit? Uh-oh.
No, you didn't step on my toes. It just managed to make me, change what I'm bragging about here. just be sure you can see my screen because I started sharing and I'm not seeing. Okay, now you're seeing.
Yep.
Good. So I'm Fred. I am doing lots of PowerShell tool building and having fun with it, and I'm improving lots of the basic tooling, and select object was one of the things I really wanted to interact with. Now, all that I'm showing to you can be found, okay, most of what I'm showing to you, thanks to Andrew's spontaneous change here, can be found on PSFramework.org, properly documented, which is where you can find all of my tools and toys. The key thing is the PS framework that I'm going to be talking about. But since we now, started on the selecting things front, I'm going to go for my favorite example here, Windows, File, and then we are going to select the first 5 items. We can do that. We can also go ahead and do this for the exact same thing as you just now showed. Now, fun bit, there's this module called PSUtil. PSUtil is the module I wrote when my PowerShell profile started growing too large. The PowerShell profile is like a startup script you can run to make your console more convenient. And one of the commands it has in there is something really fun. It's called S. Give me the first 5. Skip 2 of them. Oh, actually, I wanted the last 2 instead.
Negative values. Interesting. I have not seen
now,
that.
You might be wondering, what the hell is S, Fred? As a matter of fact, it's called select PSU object sample, but this is strictly for interactive console convenience, and who wants to write this, type this monster every single time? At that point, I might just do select first. So, quick little nifty tool I like to brag about. But coming back to our dear select object and what we can do with that. And one of the things we just now saw was this great calculated properties thing. But let's start back at our slide story. Let's say we need to provide a report of all the files and their size under the windows. Replace that with user profile size, mailbox size, whatever. But for a quick demo, everybody on a Windows machine can reproduce. This should do. So I want the name and I want the size. Problem is, this property isn't called size. It's called length, because the number of bytes behind each other. So I put this in the CSV, give it to my boss, and my boss says, no, Fred, it's nice, but I want, what's length? I want a size report. Okay, we can do that. Because this calculated property thing, you don't have to use this just to create a completely fictitious property. You can actually just use it for a plain rename. Doesn't have to be any complicated magic. Again, $_ is the current item. So that's great. Now, of course, these numbers, like, what the hell? Can we make this user-friendly, Fred? Can we make this, humanly useful? We already have that. I'm going to go with kilobytes rather than megabytes. And I'm not going to do any fancy magic here because we all saw that already. I'm just trying to reiterate the problem that I'm trying to solve. So this works. But as you can see, this is hard to read. The numbers aren't really all that great. It's meh. And this is on PowerShell 7 where they actually trim the displayed digits after the dot. So yeah, no. Let's make this better. I'm going to use select PSF object. It works exactly the same way as select object, only it has a few more fun features. For example, I can take the property length, and I declare it that I want it as a size, which is actually something I stole from SQL. But this is the way you would rename in a select statement. So, column properly renamed. That's fun. That's good. But we still have this problem that the numbers aren't really human-friendly. So, Can we do something about that? As a matter of fact, yes, because we can't just rename properties, we can also change their data type. And it just so happens that there is a fancy data type called PSFsize with PSFramework. You'll note that actually the numbers are scaled per item, and they look nice, they look beautiful. And here's another command I kind of want to point out, built in default, it's called sort object. One of the common problems when we make numbers beautiful is that they stop being numbers, they start being text. So let's sort by size. Well, there we have it. It works, but this is not everything. I mean, it's nice, it's fun for me, but it can do more. Notably, we can, for example, last write time dot year as year, we can access sub-properties. And picking up a question from the chat, can we align the kilobytes and megabytes, as in put it all right bound rather than left bound? The answer to that is yes, no. Specifically, it can't happen as part of the select PSF object because that is a style configuration we need to put into how should an object of my type be formatted. But if we use the type PSF size in one of our own objects and we define the form, the way we want to display objects, which is definitely an advanced topic beyond the scope of today, then you could change that, yes. So we've got that. We can do sub-properties, which is nice, but we can do something a bit more. Because, you know, in PowerShell, we have more than one kind of property. I'm going to grab that one for a moment and go back to get member. You can see we have a node property, we have just a property, we have a script property, we have an alias property. So different property types have different behaviors. Property and a node property, the key difference between those two is where they came from. They behave the same once they're there. A script property is something that gets calculated as you ask for it. So it's a piece of code that runs on demand. An alias property, on the other hand, is just a different name for the same value. So since you know at this point, my key goal was met. I was having a user-convenient, a user-friendly select object, something that will allow me to skip those hash tables in most cases. But there's no kill like overkill. We need to make this more magical. I mean, it's not. I'm not saying it's more useful, but it's more magical. I'm willing to settle for more magic. So there's this nice parameter called alias, and I can say I want size as length, because I actually still wanted that length. As you can see, length is an alias property. Now, okay, so far that's good. Now remember that I said, okay, looking at the last element is nice, if you, but sometimes the first one is also important. Well, turns out this type name can be important in some cases, and I want to make it, well, my type name. So let's give it my type name. Looks exactly the same so far, but what does get member say? Well, is that everything? Not quite yet. There's one more fancy thing I want to show off. So let's reduce the bulk a little bit. Yeah. When you look at this notation, I'm kind of emulating SQL there. And you know, while we're on the business on writing fancy magic features, yeah, let's do that. There's one more SQL thing I really, really like, and it's called joins. I'm going to pick up attributes from files 2 where name equal name. I will admit this is a bit more of a toy thing, but it works just fine. Just a few more hidden weird features, but that's the most accessible ones that I can really demonstrate here.
What about
it's all documented.
Calculated properties? I guess that's sort of what this is, right? Without having to calculate it yourself.
Well, yes. Basically, okay. Let's do another one. Last write time dot to string. We can do that as well. We can call methods. And, well, okay. We can also do a script property. But at that point, really, we are kind of taking this further than it was ever really meant for to.
That's the fun of it, right?
Well, yes, there's no kill like overkill.
Have you heard of select PSU function code?
Yes, I heard that some person somewhere at some point wrote it, and there is something going on there. But well, first I need a function to, you know, show the function code for. So I'm going to get command expand PSU object. I'm going to try to select PSU function code. Let's see what happens. Well, fun thing happens.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So intuitive, yeah. So helpful. Oh my gosh.
And it allows you to search for stuff like, where the hell is this guy using select object? Well, no. I somehow managed to mess that one up, but is it here? No. It managed to kill my console. Fred did a great job doing the demo here.
Somebody asked you to do some crazy stuff at the end. I don't know who that was. I will talk to them and see if I can get them to chill out. But we do have a good question from the chat here. Good buddy Morton says, can you send splat to the select PSF object when you have piped it from another command just to make it easier to read?
Well, it accepts splatting, but I'm not sure whether that's what the question, what the person asking meant.
Yeah, when you have piped it from another command.
You mean like
so you pipe something to it and then you then you splat maybe?
I don't know, but I do have something else fun when it comes to splatting. If we're on the, oh, do you have some fancy tool for this front? I do have something. So let's create a first quick.
Can you control plus just a couple times?
Yes, I can. It doesn't really work here.
Scroll. There you go. Perfect.
So let's do that. C Windows. Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to force it. Yes, that's fine. I'm going to ask for files. Yes. And I'm going to add in the universal answer. So if I now try to, get child item param, this is not going to go well. Because splatting looks for parameters of the correct name, but answer is not part of the parameters get child item supports. So you need a new param because splatting requires a variable, guaranteed. There's no way around that. So I've got this nice original param, and now I'm going to convert this to PSF hashtable. Only I need to tell it what command I actually want to splat to. And it only leaves in entries that fit to the command that we were referencing.
Why is it colored? It's green.
That's a PowerShell 7 thing. These are executables, including batch files and CMD files, which can be executed on demand. This is unfortunately not something I can claim credit for.
I honestly didn't even know that.
On the other hand, since I just recently released a new version of PSFramework and we're on the topic of splatting, you're now stuck with one more quick demo.
Bring it on. That's what we're here for, man.
Good, because there is something called the PSF hash table. It's a regular hash table. I can try to, splat that, which is not going to work because answer is not valid. So far, that's fine. Now, what makes this PSF hash table something different than the regular hash table is the weird stuff you can do with it. Specifically, I can set the default value. So if I now ask for the answer, we do have a value for that. If I ask for a key that does not exist, I instead get the default value. Now, this is nice, but I've seen a few other coding examples where hash tables can be really convenient, but are not quite powerful enough when I'm forced into something like a switch statement or an if-else, 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 else-if construct that I really don't like. That could be so much easier if hash tables could just do that one more thing more. So let's enable pass-through. And now it will return the key if the key does not exist. Only if it doesn't exist. And the final new one is I can set a calculator. A calculator is a script block that is run for anything that it does not have registered as a key.
Oh, 2 times 2 is 22 because it says text. Okay, got it.
Right. So, different ways we can make hash tables a bit more useful, even if it's kind of off topic compared to the original select object thing.
I'm trying to get people dabbling, just a little bit here and there, seeing that some of this stuff isn't quite as confusing. Maybe if people walk away today, maybe they already knew select object, learned a thing or two, but that bracket thing, the ability to access, I think it's called like array indexing.
Array, it's indexing, yes. it's different between an array and a hash table. If an array, we select the index position, like give me the first item, give me the second item. Only remember that the first item is the 0 and not the 1.
Yeah,
and
-1 is the last item.
Yeah, and hash tables, well, hash tables are kind of the same as an array, only they don't use numbers, they use labels.
Yep.
So there's no first, second, or third concept. It's just know the correct thing.
And these are constructs you're going to see all over PowerShell, though, not just in this one use case here. It's kind of a common thing. And being able to know that it exists and know you can go to it is going to help you. Because what we're trying to do is manipulate and make whatever output we get the most useful for us and can empower us to then take action and do other things.
Yeah.
Fred, I want to stump you. I have a hard question.
Go ahead.
You sound excited. Do ordered hash tables support numbered references? I don't think so. That's my guess.
They totally should. But we can find that out. I mean, it's easy enough to do. I'm going to do ordered. And then I'm just going to, specify a hash table. Ooh. No, it doesn't. Ain't that a funny
0?
thing?
Because there's only nothing, 0 of nothing.
Didn't do a thing. Didn't store anything. That is actually an interesting question. I never tried that out of ordered. Now let's do something else while we're on the topic. O2. That worked. Well, somehow, just our index not working anymore.
But I think what we're doing here is what people out there need to be doing. Try stuff. Just run some code. You're curious, what happens if I do this? Run it and find out. That's the only way your brain will not be confused. You have to touch it in the ways you can.
Yeah, and every day is something new. I mean, I've been doing PowerShell for more than a decade, and I didn't notice. I literally never tried that out, what Andrew made me do just now, and, well, now I know something else that I didn't know.
Yep. It's also, if you ever see red text, try it again, up arrow key, read the red message, and see if you can decipher what actually is wrong before you look it up. Like this one's kind of easy.
Wait a second. You mean you can read error messages? That's a thing?
Sometimes. If you're too stressed out, you can't read them. But if you remember that they actually, a lot of times people write error messages to be helpful. Unfortunately, sometimes they're not helpful at all. Like the most annoying thing. Sometimes APIs are that way. But you need to be able to read the stuff.
Absolutely. And it's a lot easier in PowerShell 7. Let's try the same thing in Windows PowerShell. Now, it contains the same error message, yes, but it's a lot more confusing, especially if you get more than one of them. So do yourself a favor and upgrade. It's a simple install. Heck, you don't even need to install. You can just download a zip file if that's your thing. Or you can go to the Microsoft App Store and install it from there and never have to worry about updates again. But the new PowerShell 7, black symbol at the top here, that's how you can tell you're in a new one. The color scheme might also be a hint. But that makes your error messages so much less confusing.
Fred, do you remember how to make error messages green? What variable is that in?
You are asking me a thing. I think there was something called PSStyle somewhere.
That was, but this is before that, right? This is like 10 years ago. You could set it green, right?
Oh, totally. There's this thing called PS readline option, which gives us, amongst other things, the error color.
Was there not a different way before that, though? I'm thinking like ISE days.
ISE is a completely different story.
Yeah,
it was a thing that came with PowerShell 3 as a possible feature, but the only tool that exposed this is the PS readline module, which became baked into PowerShell in PowerShell 5. You could install PS readline into 3, because it was on GitHub, but that's before the days of the PowerShell gallery. So how would you even know that this module exists? How would you know how to deploy it? For most people, that was a terrible challenge.
Yeah, yeah. But nowadays, when PowerShell 7, it really does make it readable. And even if it scares you, just try and read it. It's such a common thing, though. People have been doing PowerShell for a long time. The reason this was kind of like a movement for a little bit was because it is just such a common thing humans fall for. I see it happening to me. I have to remind myself in other ways, and other, like outside of PowerShell too. I'll see an error and be like, okay, let me try something else, instead of actually reading it, and I'll have to remind myself. So that's like good troubleshooting stuff. Actually read error messages.
It is. All right, while we're on the topic of PS readline, there's one more thing I have to inflict on everybody. And that is, especially for the beginners watching this, tab completion. It's a great thing if you hit tab, but it can be even better with the most important key binding in your PowerShell life, Control spacebar. Whenever you would use the tab key, you can instead hit Control space, get a nice selection menu with the available options. Also tells you what kind of data it's expecting once you're to the point of caring about the data types.
Tab completion for sure, and controlled spaces, just, you have to. Once you do it, it increases your discoverability. Say you don't know every single parameter for every single command, and you don't want to just sit there tabbing all day. Control space.
Yeah, and the fun thing is, it's not just for, parameters and commands. You can even use it for static methods and data types. Or, okay, Fred, stop doing the alias thing. GI, get item, dot current path. So now I have my C drive. And this is an object. Objects have properties and methods. Guess what? Control spacebar gets you the properties and methods.
So
it even tells you what they want for input if you look at it.
Did you have to set a PS readline option to get that extra functionality?
No, that is baseline. But if you don't see that for some reason, if your console is at the bottom or whatever, you can call a method as if it were a property, and you get a list of ways to call it that way as well.
Nice.
And to the question, no, this is not PSFramework. That is built into every single PowerShell since Windows 10.
Yeah, we talked PSFramework, we talked select object. Now we're just hanging out. We're just chatting some other stuff, seeing what comes up. Asking hard questions to Fred, see if we can make him crack.
Yeah, but if you really want PSFramework and tab completion, we can do that as well. I mean, I have made it more fancy and magical. Let's do a quick look through the documentation. There's some quick start, like easy quick starting things. There's even a 1 hour, or 45 minutes conference recording on getting much out of PSFramework convenience. But one of the things we have here, other than the, I think most well-known feature, the logging, is we have something for tab completion. Let's say we have an absolutely business-critical command that absolutely must run. And then I want tab completion for that. And well, there's not much tab completion there to be had. And I mean, I can put that into hard-code it into the code with like maybe a validate set or something like that. But that means I have to know what beverages are available at the time that I'm writing the code, not at a time I am opening the bar. That's not going to be good. So I want something like this. It works, but one small typo and you're in a world of pain. That is something we want to avoid. So let's add some tab completion for that. First, I need to define a piece of PowerShell code that calculates the values. This could be a REST API call. This could read some variables from memory. It could look up some text file. It could do whatever. In this case, I just hard-coded some values. And then, well, I suppose I just need to tell PowerShell which command should be using that script block. No, not get shot out and get alcohol. So that's okay-ish, but there's one problem here, or one feature. This tab completion is just that, tab completion. And well, I can do something that is not part of the tab completion, which is nice, but I can't be sure I know all the values. It's bad if, well, I don't have the ingredients for mojito my boss is ordering and I tell him, yes, that's no problem. So we have got a question in the chat. What is the difference between PSF argument completer and the regular one? Well, for one thing, actually, we'll be getting back to that one. For one thing, you don't need to do any of the text filtering. The toolkit does it for you from the outputs. Another feature is that I can do the script blocks, give them a cache duration, like only calculate this once every 8 hours. So if you want, for example, dynamic tab completions of the domain controllers, which are not going to change that frequently, Active Directory, domain controllers, you can tell it this value needs to be done only once, and that's it. There are a few other features. A few new features. Amongst other things, it can now learn based on user input. And another interesting feature is when we have this invalid value, regular argument completers don't include any validation. So now we need to do with classical argument completers, we need to go and do a validate script and do the same code again, only for validation. So there's this thing called PSF validate set, which accepts the name of the tab completion, if I don't misspell that, this name here as input. And now it also acts as the validation.
Nice.
So it makes it easier. You don't have to do any weird notation. Do I need to put quotes around my input or not? Beer doesn't get one, meat doesn't get one, rum gets one, because there's a white space in there. So more conveniences like that. There might also be a bit more. Let's hope I managed to get the links right. I did manage to get the links right. And this information is nice, but we can do better. So let's re-register that thing. And you might notice that now we not only have a text, we also have a tooltip. So yeah, that's not quite everything.
It's just the tip of the iceberg. Check out PSFramework, all of Fred's fantastic projects. Fred, I got a wrap. We've had a good time for an hour.
Give me 2 more minutes. I've got the finished demo end to end already here on hand.
Oh, we got more? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's related to that. First of all, you can also assign the argument completion with the PSF argument completer attribute rather than doing the command. And this is now a command that has a new parameter here. When we define the script block, I said it, do auto training. And we've got a second command here that is doing something weird, probably. We don't know that yet, but it's probably going to do some magic. So I've got a few options here. And I don't have any, I don't have any validation anymore. And I managed to mess this up. because the old one overrides the command overrides the this one. So let's go with get alcohol 2. Tab completion still works, but now I go ahead and do my mojito thing. And suddenly, the command knows that input. Now, this is an important thing here. Update PSF tab completion is the moment where the command remembers, hey, this is valid tab completion, which means if we provide an invalid value, and this is totally not some local German subculture rivalry going on here. Well, this was not a legal value, so it was not added to the completion. So, tab completion that can even learn from you. And that's it.
Boom. That's another one, Fred. Another PowerShell Wednesday. If you're out there, hope you had some fun. If you're still with us, you're probably having some fun with PowerShell if you're enjoying modules and things like that. But we do this every single Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And we only do it on Wednesdays, but every single Monday we do the PowerShell podcast. And if you want to check out this week's episode, I had a great chat with Stephen Judd. Got some great comments from people who've listened to that one. So check it out. Talk about some pretty serious stuff. The PowerShell journey, if you're earlier on, there's going to be a lot of great takeaways for you. And if you've been doing it for a while, there's also some great insight because Stephen Judd is one who has been there and done that. But I got to say thank you to my friend Fred. Fred, we are digging PSFramework. Where can we get it?
They can get it on the PowerShell gallery, just one install module away. Or if following the documentation on the website and finding this new module called PSFramework.NuGet, it could be one install PSF module away, which can also deploy to remote computers with the computer name parameter.
Got it all. Boom. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. We'll be here next week. I think we're going to cover some where objects. So taking filtering to the next level, and there's a lot you can do with where object. It can do more than select object, I'd say. I think they're both kind of critical. You need them both. Anyways, we're covering it all here at PowerShell Wednesday. Join us on the PDQ Discord, discord.gg/PDQ. Thinking maybe next week I might have a little pre-show kind of vibe going on, like maybe start at 30 minutes early. Don't officially start till the top of the hour. Who knows? If you're enjoying PowerShell Wednesday, let me know your feedback, how we can make it better. That's all I got, Fred. I'm out of here. I'm hungry.
Right. Thank you for having me over.
Yes. Take care, everybody.